Hello everyone, welcome back to another Sandbox tutorial. It's been a long time, apologies, lots of things happening. This one is going to be the last tutorial. This one is going to be the very much awaited CSS and styling of character sheets tutorial. I know I've never done this tutorial, not even in the previous series, so I hope you guys find it useful. So first thing that we have to talk about during this before we start is that for you to be able to configure your character sheet styling, you need to go here to configure settings, system settings, and here you need to write down the CSS style file location. What is this exactly? So the CSS file is the file that is going to tell Sandbox how to display and how to draw the character sheet with what styles. Okay, so as you can see, the folder reference needs to be the typical for Sandbox, so you need to start with the main Foundry folder for your installation. So in my case, worlds. I'm going to be using my Strixhaven world. I'm playing a campaign in Spanish, so I created a D&D hack in Spanish to play this because I found it easier with my own automations in Sandbox and everything. So the character sheet is something like this, like you've seen, but we want to tweak this and make it more cool, no? So make it look better. So we're going to create a style.css file that we're going to locate here. How do I organize stuff? So basically in my world folder I create a folder called styles, this one here, styles, yeah, and inside that one I create the following folders. So I create a fonts folder, an images folder, and outside of this folder I locate the style CSS, which is this one. So CSS is a kind of file that you can open with a txt notepad, but I suggest using this thing here, which is called Notepad++, which is a free software. It's very cool and will let you code and do your stuff. Because it has a lot of modules to check on errors and issues and things like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to need. So let's get into it. So I need to warn you, this is not a CSS specific tutorial. I cannot teach you CSS. So if you want to learn about CSS, so I recommend you lots of tutorials on YouTube out there. So I'm going to assume that you know a little bit. Probably you're going to learn a bit with what I'm going to be doing. But basically the CSS file is going to change stuff. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail on how it changes it. I'm just going to write the instructions for it to change it. Good things to know in advance. So if you press F12, there you go. So if you press F12 on Chrome, you got this little thing, this helper here, menu, yeah, and you have some tabs, elements and console. If at some point you have any problem, any issue running Sandbox and nothing works, press F12 and look here in the console where I'm clicking. If there's something written in red, the reason is, I mean, the software found an issue, and you can report a bug by screenshotting whatever you see here. Okay, but the other cool thing that the F12 menu shows is the elements menu. Here the elements menu allows you to locate specific and particular elements of the HTML with the representation, okay, so we can use them later. For example, so if I click here, you see our character sheet gets blue. That means that this element here, this div here, it represents this character sheet. This is HTML, so I'm not gonna explain what it is exactly, but it's a way that web browsers and web pages represent the information. It's a tags system representation or code language, that every div is a block. So this div here is the window app, is the character sheet. This, if I click on section, the form, I can see header. Okay, so you can see header is the bit on top that has the token and the name and all that stuff. The next one is the tabs, and the next one is the body of the character sheet. Okay, this is very quick. So why is this useful? Because you can locate classes. Let me rephrase this so you can all understand it. HTML, as I said, is the way a web page represents and draws things. Every HTML is based on tags. So tags basically start this way, for example with a div block, and finish with /div. For example, this is a block, okay, and within this block it writes a lot of information. For example, this div here, as I said, represent all the block of the character. Let me do this again. So this div block here represent all the block of that draws everything of the character sheet. Every div in Sandbox, every HTML tag, which is the things that we see here in between divs or in between body or in between section and things like that, has a class. As you can see, for example, this one, the character sheet has the following classes. I'll write it down here so you can see it better. It has class equal this. Okay, so what does that mean? Is the way HTML identifies elements. Okay, so the whole character sheet has these following classes: the app class, the window app class, the sandbox class, the sheet class, and the actor class. Okay, so by using the F12 menu, you can locate the class of every element. How can I do it more easily without having to open every single menu and looking for everything here? You have a little icon here on top left with a cursor thing that if you click it, every time you pass the cursor over something, you see a little pop-up that tells you the class. So if I put my cursor over the token image, I can see that the classes that it has is the profile/image EMG class. Okay, if I put my cursor over the level tag label, I can see that it has the classes NV, write text label /free class, the font group 1 class. It has a lot of classes. The classes are separated by dots. So, and you might be thinking, woof, this is very confusing. So why would I use this? because CSS tells you how to draw a particular class. Okay, so in CSS, I can tell CSS that I want to, for example, in the CSS file, I can write down this, that any element that has the sandbox.sheet and the role/free class needs to be represented in red. Okay, for you to know this element here, oh, let me remove this so you can see it. This element here, the D20, has the class role/free. There you have it. Yeah, so that means if I click on save here, our CSS file with this instruction, and now let me remove the F12, press F5 and open the character sheet. As you can see, I told it that every element with that class needs to be represented in red, and here you have it. Here you have it in red. The die now is red. Okay, so that's why we use CSS. Okay, so we identify classes, okay, and we tell the CSS what to do with that class, what color to represent it, what font, what size. Okay, now let's start little by little. So I want to start with fonts. Okay, normally I try to start with fonts. So I downloaded in the font or font 1001, which are web pages that allow you to download fonts, free fonts. I downloaded a font called Academic MS4. And to declare a new font in CSS, you have to use @font/face, and you need to use two instructions: font family, double point, and the name of the font, and src URL and the location of the file. As I said at the beginning, my folder structure uses inside the styles folder, where is this style CSS, uses a folder of fonts where I have downloaded this font from the font. Okay, so this file academic_m54.ttf is downloaded into this folder. Okay, now let's do something cool with that font that we just declared. What I'm going to do is to change the what am I going to do? Yes, I'm going to change the entity name. So this header of the sheet, I'm going to change it. So by pressing F12, let's see, you see this field here with the entity, with the actor name, has the class entity name. Okay, so what we're going to do is to change entity name, and we're going to introduce a instruction for it. So oops, nope, let me copy it because I have it prepared from another file, so I can go quick. So as always, we need to start with Sandbox sheet because we are changing an element inside the sheet. We are changing an input field because we can input information in the name, and the class is entity name, like we just saw. We are going to use font family the academic M54, the one that we included in the folder. We're going to choose font size 50, a specific color. This is a hex color. We're going to space the letters. We're going to remove all these borders that we have by default, and then we're going to include our own, a border in the bottom, yeah, of 3 pixels thick, and this color. We're going to align the text center because in this one is left aligned. We're going to include some padding and some strokes. Okay, we save. Let me hide it and let's press F5 and see how it looks like. There you have it, you see? So as you can see here, we have applied the academic font, which is a font I downloaded because it's kind of academic and it looks cool with the character sheet for Strixhaven, which is a magic university. And you can see there is a text align center, the border of the bottom, etc. Cool, huh? I'm going to declare the other 2 fonts that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to leave them here. The Laura Bold and the Thiano D. Regular, I downloaded them from Da Font too, and they're included in that folder, and we're going to be using them later. Now, what else we need? I would like to change the header. So this area here, I would like it to have a background image. So the background image that I'm going to be using is this one. This one has a look. I want this one to be here at the background. You see it has some kind of elements of a university, you know, like this hat of graduation, a notebook, some glasses here. So I want to use that. How can I do that? Okay, so I need then to identify the class of the header so I can edit it in CSS. So again, F12, we press on this cursor and we go to this one. You see, this class is sheet/header. Okay, there you have it in here, class sheet header. So I want to edit that. So as I know the name now, what I'm going to do is introduce it, add it to our CSS file. So here I'm going to add Sandbox sheet again because I'm editing the style of the sheet, and the sheet always has the Sandbox sheet class and the tag sheet header, which is the one I talked about now. We're going to change the background and we're going to include the image that I showed you, which is in the image folder. Again, in our folder structure, this one is here in the EMG folder, and its name is header.png. Okay, so now that we included that, we save the CSS file and we press F5. Wow, what a change, huh? Looks cool. So now we changed our header. Yeah. Okay. Now what else can we change? Now that we change the role stuff and all that, I would like to change this mod here that is a bit misaligned. If you can notice, it is very misaligned. So I am going to look for its class to change it. Here it is. Label slash mod, and it's a label. Okay, so let's change it. Label slash mod. Well, an input. No, yes, input. No, let's change only label slash mod for now, because it's the one that we saw. So let me show the Notepad++, and we add Sandbox sheet label mod is our class. We're going to be using the font family Larabold, the one that we declared here, and we also have it downloaded in our fonts folder. We're going to use this font size, white color, some padding, a height. We're going to make it use all its height, and a margin left so you can separate it from this red dye here. Let's save it, and again we press F5. Whoa, you see? Now it looks cooler. We separated from the rest and in a different format. Okay, let's continue, my friends. Now I want to change the navigation tabs, these tabs here. So I'm going to be using some images for the buttons instead of this boring type here. So I intend to be using these buttons. Okay, border 2, which is going to be the unselected one. Border 3 is going to be the selected one. Left arrow PNG and right arrow PNG for the arrows. Okay, I have these images downloaded on my folder, on this folder here, on the IMG folder. And let's identify then what is there. So let's select the whole thing. Okay, the whole ribbon of tabs has the class A tabs, as you can see there, A tabs. Okay, A tabs has a lot of elements, and we can see every single element has every single element in between has the tabs class, but not the arrows. Okay, so let's start with the A tabs. So let me do this so you can see it. Now, A tabs. So for A tabs, what you're going to do is include a border on the top so we can separate the area from the header. Another border on the bottom so we can separate from the rest. Background color, color for the font, and some padding. And for the tabs, what we're going to do for the tabs class, so for the ones in between, what I'm going to add is some margin. And I guess I realized this later, but yeah, let's see why later anyway. So we save, we hide, and let's see what we can see here now after we press F5. Now you can see what happened. We used that background black, the font in white, and we can't even see the arrows now because they were black. Okay, so now let's change the buttons. So what class is the button? F12. So is tab/button. Okay, so let's show Notepad, and we need to add the tab button class. No, not that one. Here it is. So as you can see, as always, a sheet class, because we're working on a sheet, Sandbox sheet. Tab button, which is a class for these clickable tabs. And what do we want from them? We want a background transparent. We want no border. We want the image to be border too, like I mentioned. So we're going to be using, there you are, this light blue. And these instructions are a little bit more advanced for CSS. So if you have time to check on a tutorial, check on border and image slice and image outset. So we save and let's see what happens. Whoa, cool, huh? So now we have some new buttons, but they're not aligned. But this is how they look, and every time I click one, the only thing I can see is that the ones are clicked, the font just changed into underlined, yeah. So but I want the active one, the active tab, to use the other button, the slightly darker one. So I'm going to use practically the same instruction, the same class, because it's the same class I'm using. I'm going to change tab button, but I'm going to add a little thing, item.active, because if I press F12 and choose the active tab, as you can see, it has the classes active and the class item, yeah. So, and also the class tab, and that's it. Those are the important ones. So I'm going to use the item, every element that has the item class and the active class, which is going to be that one, is going to be affected, and is going to use as background border 3, which is a bit darker. Let's press F5 and see what happens. As you can see, the active tab uses this new image. So every time I click one, the active tab uses that image. Okay? Let's continue. Let's align this a little bit. So we need to change the tabs class and make it a little bit presentable. We're going to align things. So we're going to be using the tabs and the item class. We're going to change the font because that font was too small. We're going to make it bigger, and we're going to add a padding. We save. We press F5. There you go. Now it looks cooler, huh? Looks fantastic with the padding and the new font and the new size. Okay, let's go now with the arrows that we can't even see them. We can't even see them. So let's check on the classes for the arrows. So we click on this, and so the arrows are inside a container called tab next and tab prev. And inside the container, we have the image, which is right arrow as a class. Okay, that should be enough for us. So we're going to change first tab next and tab prev, like we just saw. So we add there tab next and tab prev. Here you are, prev and next. We add some padding. How do I know what padding do I need to use? Because I already know how the sheet is going to look like. I designed it with a lot of test, okay? But in your case, just test with the padding, with the margins. It's going to take a long time anyway until you find the character sheet that you like. So for this tutorial, we cheated. No, we already know how is it going to look like. That's why I just only copy paste from the original file. But yeah, I mean it's faster this way. What else? And then we have, as we said, left arrow and right arrow, and for those classes, which are the image classes, we're going to be using, I copied them, left arrow and right arrow, paste them. We're going to be using as background the images that we have, which are like left arrow, R arrow, and L arrow. We're going to have a size, background size for the image, with the height and width equal to the background size, and we're going to display it in block. We save, and we expect to see, once we press on F5, we expect to see these boxes at the end of the ribbon. And here they are. You see? Cool. Yeah, click them, everything goes well. Fantastic. Changes a lot, huh? Okay, now let's continue. What can we do now? Oh yeah, the background. The background of the character sheet, I don't like it. You know, you can change it inside your template. In the config, you can include a background here. Or alternatively, you can do it this way, directly change it in the CSS file. So what we have to do is F12. Dun, dun. Here it is. We click on here and we have a lot of classes for this element, which is a big element, but the main one is the tab, which is the first one that we see. Here it is, tab. It has a classes tab, scrollable, datos pj tab, active, but tab is the main one. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to include then in our CSS file a reference to that class so we can change it. So let me copy and paste. We include a new one, Sandbox sheet, and the tab class, and I'm going to use ABS1 GPG as the background with a background size of the 100%. So let me show you what that file, what the image file looks like. Looks like this, and it is already located in the sheet structure in the IMG, in the images folder. Yeah. So if I press F5, refresh, there you go on the background. You see? Fantastic. Now let's continue. What else can we change now? Okay, I think we should go now to the I don't have that much time. Okay, so if we continue working like that, so the only thing we have to do is to click F12 and click element by element. There is a complication here. Many elements by default share class. For example, every skill here in these columns of skills, which is in Spanish habilidades, share the same classes, label med, label medium. So I cannot change them individually. Yeah, for me it's going to be very complicated. A way to do that, to specifically change stuff, is by using font groups and input groups. This is something I explained in the past, but very quickly. So in Sandbox, every item, let's say a panel, the info panel, which is this panel is this panel, okay? So in Sandbox, every element has a field called font group, header group, and input group, okay? If I populate font group, every label of that element is going to have this class added. So let's look at this. We press F12, press click, and let's click on any element, because you see this one is that panel. As you can see, it's called, the class is called info underscore pj underscore container, which is this panel, which is its key. its panel key. So when we have font group field, every element of that panel, every label of that panel is going to have the font group 1. Let's try with level, nivel. As you can see, at the end, if I click on it, here it is. At the end, the last class that it has is font group 1. I can write here any name I want, and that is the name of the class that it will have added. So what does this, what's the utility of this? What's this good for? So we can have any property panel or tab on Sandbox having specific classes on CSS that we can edit on the CSS file specifically. Yeah. So now that I have font group in all this panel, the only thing I have to do to affect all these labels is include the class font group 1 in my CSS file. Okay, so let's do that. So I want every label with the font group 1 class, which I added through Sandbox, to have this Laura Bold font, this font size, and this color. We save, we press F5, and let's see what happens. There you go. As you can see, I hope this is noticeable. As you can see, every element with the font group has changed the color and the font. There you go. Here, there, all these three. You see, even the ones from the next panel, because I didn't know they had the font group, I suppose so, they have changed them. Fantastic, huh? Now, you can do the same with input groups and with head groups. As you can imagine, input groups, they change input fields, which is this field here, any cell of a table, any list, any checkbox, any radio button, any, what else? Any simple text, simple numeric, all that, or all those are input, but not their labels that they're close to them. Those are font groups, and head groups are the headers of the panels. Okay, that's what they change. So let me add an input group and a head group. So I have input group 1 added around. So let me add it here. Let me remove this one here. Input group 1, and I want every element with that class to have font size 12, to have bold font weight and a background color. Let me save this, and let's look before we do that, before we refresh, where are elements with input 1. I suppose input group 3, this is input group 3, this is input mod. Where can I find one? Input group 3, input GM. Where can I find input group 1? Input group. Okay, so I just chose the one that is nowhere to be seen. Well, okay, fantastic. Maybe here. Do I have input group 1? Input group. Nope. Okay. Then let me change. This one is input group 3. So let's do input group 3 instead. Okay, and let's see what we get. Let me remove input group 1 and put input group input group 3. Input group 3. There you are. Okay, one thing that you'll notice is that there is this important tag. Sometimes you're gonna see, and specifically for input groups, for input elements, that even if you change things on the CSS file, things don't change. That is because the priority, the hierarchy of the tags. If you see that happening, you only need to do this, include important, and Sandbox is going to say, okay, so the new CSS file has priority, so I'm going to listen to that one instead, and it's going to work. Okay, let's save this. We press F5. I hope this makes sense, guys. I know it can be confusing. CSS is kind of confusing. And there you are. So as you can see, what input group 3 has as options is the Laura Bold font that we can see everywhere, the font size, which is a bit bigger, the color of the font, which is black, as you can see everywhere, and the background color, which has the important one, which is this light blue thing, has it everywhere. Now looks fancy. Very good. Well, the tables, we still need to change them, but I don't think I'm going to do it because I don't have much time and I don't want these to last forever. And the final one is head groups. Okay, so let me show you head groups. So let's start with this one. This has the class head group 1, as you can see there, head group 1. Why does it have the class head group 1? Well, because we added it in the panels. We added it here in the header group. We stated the key of the header group and it was added to that element. Yeah, so let's add the header group into our CSS file. There you have head group 1, sorry. And for this one, it's going to have this color, it's going to be transparent. We're going to use that font that we declared at the beginning, and blah 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 blah, and a lot of things. We save, we remove this, and we press F5, and let's see. Boom! Now it looks cool. Looks absolutely cool. Yeah, it had transparent and a lot of stuff. Okay, what else do I need to do? Okay, let's do a couple of changes and we call it a day, because I don't think there's much you guys can learn from this, much more. Let's change the badge. The badge, which is this one for the inspiration, it has two classes. One is the badge image, which of course is the poker chip, and the other one is the badge label, which is the inspiration on top, the label on top. We're going to change the image, which is going to be a cool magnifying glass in the IMG folder, and we're going to change sizes and blah blah blah. So let me remove this and we press F5, and there you are. So cool, so cool. As you can see, yeah, ice token. I don't know why did I call it ice token. It's a magnifying glass, but anyway, no repeat, bottom center, the background sounds 44 px, etc etc etc. So yeah, you can change any element with that. Yeah, you can change any element with that. Changing tables, well, it works exactly the same. It works exactly the same. The only thing that we need to we need to edit the table class. Okay, so I'm gonna copy and paste. I'm gonna copy paste at the bottom so you can see it. Oops, nope. So now I've added the tables edit. So tbody tr is going to affect the rows. Okay, so I'm telling rows to have a specific color. TD is going to affect every single cell, and I'm telling the cell to use every cell to use the LoRa bold. The LoRa bold. th.table header is telling me to edit the table header cells, which are these ones here, and I want them to have the LoRa bold font and a specific bigger size. And the input.table tiny are going to be these elements here, because they have the tiny size, and then table/tiny class. I know it, I don't want to spend time showing you. And finally, every input of the table, whether it's a checkbox or whether it's a simple numeric, etc., that does not have the table tiny, is going to have this background color, and it is going to have a bordered bottom. Yeah, let's see how it looks, this thing. Let's press F5. I'm going to be a little bit quick because this has more to do with CSS options. There you go. You see, it looks super great. It looks super great. As you can see, it has the background color, which is this 59, this kind of pink violet strange thing, and those borders for in between the lines. Very cool. Okay, let's wrap this thing up, and we're gonna go for the last couple of things I want you to know about. So you can also edit our role templates. How do they look here? Okay, how do we do that? Let's use our friend F12. So we have two places, the role template, the menu, and the role in chat. So one is this one. Let me see if I can, no, not this one. This one, which is the DC role bar, okay, which has two things, the DC input class and the DC role menu class. And then we have the role templates on the chat tab, which normally have the chat /message class. So I'm going to be using two images. One is going to be a stone image for the background, and I'm going to be using a small scroll image, like a papyrus image, on top of it. So for role menu and for role tab, for both of them, I'm going to be, for role menu and role template, so both this one outside and this one, I'm going to make the background transparent, and I'm going to add the image of a stone. Yeah, let's see how it looks like so you can understand. Press F5. You see, there's a stone there, gray stone. On top of it, there is the class, the content of these roles use the role content class. So I'm going to be editing the role content class, and I'm going to make it transparent, but then add the image of a parchment. So I press F5 after saving, and there you go. Looks super cool, huh? So you see the parchment in front of that. What else? We can also, my friends, edit the difficulty, the DC window. And for Strixhaven, I use two things. I'll use one image, but let me check on the class. The class of this, as I said, is DC input. Okay, DC input, as you can see here, DC/input, and we are going to be including it here. So notice that these ones don't have the sandbox.sheet class because these elements are not inside an actor sheet. Okay, so they can be alone by themselves. So what did I do? No, that was repeated. So I'm going to edit DC input class. There you go. So I'm going to edit the DC input, which is the whole window, and then I'm going to edit the input, only the input. So this thing here, I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And for the DC input, I'm going to use the image of a magic ball. Yeah. So let's press F5, and there you got it. Super cool image to state our DC roles. Okay, I think that's most of all. Oh, no. One last thing. These checkboxes for life death saves, yeah? So those checkboxes, what I use for them is an option. So they are checkboxes which are muerto uno, muerto dos, muerto tres. So it means dead 1, dead 2, dead 3, which are these 3 here. And I'm going to checkboxes. I'm going to check the custom image thingy here, and I'm going to use I'm going to state 2 things: the checked path image and the unchecked path image. Suppose it's going to be here. Icons, no icons. Token backslash. Where exactly? Yes, should be icons, no? Oh, there they are. So dead 1 is going to be this one, checked, and yep. Okay, and the unchecked, it's going to be this one. Okay, and let me do the same for this one. So we click on custom image and we select number 2, checked 1, number 2, and unchecked number 2 grayed out. That's it. And for the final checkbox, which is this one on the right, we're going to do the same. Number 3, this one, and number 3 unchecked, which is this one. That's it. And we're going to do the same with a couple more things with death save. This one, this element here. Also, we're going to use custom image, and we're going to be using the life one, this one. The unchecked is going to be this one, and the same for vivo 2 y vivo 3, alive 1, alive 2, custom image. I know this is tedious, but I want you to see how it looks like so you can start using it, and your character sheets look way better. Custom image, and the final one, number 3, and the final one, the unchecked for the number 3 is this one. Okay, as we've changed properties of Sandbox, we need to rebuild the character sheet. We press on rebuild, there you go, and there you have it. But we have a problem here, my friends. These images are too big for the space that I have. No worries, we can change that with our friend CSS. Okay, so for that, I need to locate the class. Let me see. Yes. So if I press F12, yeah. So normally every element will have Sandbox a class that is equal to its key. So Vivo 3, Vivo 2, Vivo 2, Vivo 1, all these have their keys. So the only thing we have to do is edit elements, CSS elements equal to the classes names. So let's go and do it. Again, Sandbox sheet, because we're editing elements of Sandbox sheet, and we've included with commas all the keys of those checkboxes, and we include important because the first time I tried it they didn't change, but because of the hierarchy of checkboxes I include important, and now it gets included. So I want it to be smaller, 24px, because the original size I think is 40px. Yeah, so we save that one, we press F5, and there you got it, the perfect size. So if I click it, you see it goes red. If I click this one, it's red. This one, click this one, green, green, and green. Fantastic. And the character sheet looks way cooler than ever. Sorry, the volume went crazy. Okay, guys, that's all. That's a final tutorial. Thanks a lot for your patience. I have to say something very important also. You'll see in the following days before this week finishes a very important announcement, and it is that I'm stepping back from Sandbox development and maintenance. I'm going to explain the reasons way more in detail that Patreon post, but basically I'm not going through a very good moment of health and personal, and Sandbox is not helping, and I'm not being able to update the way I did last year and the previous one, and that causes me a bit of anxiety, and so I decided to step back. I'll explain the reason better. But I'm not going to leave you without anything. A very well-loved member of our community is going to step up. I'm going to explain it, everything. But I just want to thank all of you for your continued support, for your understanding, for the way you've loved and you love Sandbox, and the way you use it, and you contact me, and all your thanks messages and support messages during these past 2 years. For 2 years, you've been great, and you're great, and you've been the best. I need to leave for my own reasons that I'll explain, but I just can say thank you to all. I hope you keep enjoying Sandbox. I'll still be in the community, trying to answer as many questions related to Sandbox as I can, as my health and my time and my conditions allow me. And if you write me, I'll try to answer as soon as I can, as I always tried. I'll close my Patreon levels this week too. So the 90 patrons that most of you have always been there. A very special thanks to you, so you don't get charged this week. I'll keep my Patreon open, but not those levels, the ones related for Sandbox. I'm going to create a new one for the things I want to do in some other free time, my writing of adventures in Spanish. Maybe someday I'll write something in English, but focus more on the role-playing games and playing than on coding. Thank you all. Thanks for everything. This has been an amazing journey that will continue, and we're still going to continue. Love you all. Speak to you soon. Maybe. See ya. Bye.